Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bends. I'm your host, Donny Keys, and today we're going to be talking about the benefits of yoga. And if I can get my microphone all sorted, we'll dig in. So first, I thought it'd be best to touch into the stigma behind yoga that's like people have barriers with. Why they won't start or why they don't think they can start. And I thought we'd address that first before we actually go into the benefits, because we do get it quite a lot, don't we, Paul, that people think they're not ready for yoga or it's not for them, or what's the stigmas around that you hear often?
Well, a couple of things really. So I think, I can only remember back to when I first started yoga, and I think I probably felt exactly the same things, really. There's a couple of main things that people think, and there's a couple of main reasons that make people procrastinate towards actually getting to the yoga class that they want to or always wanted to get involved in. One of the main things that I always hear from students is, I really want to do yoga, but I am not flexible enough to do yoga. And really saying you're not flexible enough to do yoga is similar to saying you're too dirty to take a bath, because the whole point of coming into the yoga practice is to develop some of these things. And it's not about flexibility. The yoga practice is nothing, it's actually nothing to do with flexibility, but it does give us flexibility as we come into the main aim of the yoga practice. So yeah, you get a lot of the time, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga. And, surely the whole point in coming into the yoga practice to develop that mobile spine and nice open working body is to develop some of these flexibilities or these mobilities in the body and in the mind. It's also about bringing flexibility into the mind as well. So it's, flexibility in all directions, really. So yeah, this is one of the things that we always find, is that people think that they're not flexible to come and do the practice. I suppose you see these sort of bendy images of people in all of these mental poses on Instagram and Facebook, and even if you go to a yoga class as well. And that's just not the aim of yoga at all. So sometimes it can be probably a little bit off-putting for a beginner, just seeing somebody in these sort of gymnastic style postures. And that's not what we're doing it for at all. It is a dynamic practice in many ways. There's dynamic yoga and there's non-dynamic yoga, but when you go to a dynamic class, you will see these bendy postures, but it's nothing about that. It's always to do with coming back to the true authentic self, removing some of the delusions of the mind and coming back to the heart space. So it's not about that, but we do develop flexibility along the way. I suppose it's also, people say that they don't have enough time to do yoga, so they've already got a really busy schedule, and yoga is just another thing that they would be adding to their schedule that they physically don't have time for. And I always try and encourage people to know that they don't need a lot of time for the yoga practice. My yoga practice at the moment tends to be 10 minutes. I might do a couple of little spinal warm-ups, and then I might go into a mantra. I might just do some sun salutes. I might do a short Kundalini exercise. So you don't have to have the time. What a good thing to think about with the yoga practice is showing up daily, even if it's just sitting on the mat, come into the breath, and eventually you'll start to like the practice enough to want to spend more time doing it. So it's all about dedicating a very small amount of time, even if it's 3 minutes. You can do some of the Kundalini yoga kriyas in 3 minutes.
I think the hardest part of that is actually rolling your mat out and getting stuck in, because if you just say you're going to do 10 minutes a day, it's often you'll extend that 10 minutes anyway, because once you've actually got to the mat, it gets easier from that moment onwards. That's how I find it anyway. And I think it's the same with any form of exercise, really. Whether you're going on a run or whether you're doing, before gyms or whatever, the hardest part was always actually turning up to the practice or to exercise. So often if you just almost trick your brain into saying, oh, I'll do 10 minutes, you often end up doing half an hour, and then sometimes it'll drag on for an hour, and no one ever regrets a workout, right?
Or a work-in if it's yoga.
Yeah, we often say, don't we, at Northern Soul, yoga's not a workout, it's a work-in, and it's so true, actually. But yeah, I think time issue-wise, if you just almost trick your brain and tell your brain, I'm only going to do 10 minutes, and anything over that's a bonus, really. So that's one barrier broke down.
Yeah, it tends to be flexibility. People think that they're not flexible enough, and yoga's not about that. And you'll get to learn that the more you do the practice. You'll get to understand that it's less about what you can do, and it's more about accepting who you are, really. And again, time is another thing. But again, I suppose it's about prioritizing things. Yoga does also give you a really, really, really fabulous way of working into self-discipline. So it helps you develop this self-discipline, the actual practice of yoga, and we work through different energetic areas of the body, and we develop ritual and routine, and so it's very, very good for developing that self-discipline. Yeah, I suppose flexibility, time. What other things are people?
Cost. I keep thinking, I don't know if I like it, so I don't want to invest in a mat. I mean, for me, it's probably the least expensive.
Cheapest exercise, I think.
Yeah, ever. So I don't get that one personally, because you don't even need a mat, really. That's just a thing that we've brought to it. But really, I'm pretty sure in India they won't be all using mats, and it's...
Yeah, you can use a carpet, you can use a wooden floor, you might just bring a blanket in for the knees. You don't need the equipment to start the yoga practice. Again, there's some people who might have all the equipment, all the gear, and no idea, and some people who might have no equipment who are practicing daily. I've had times in my life where I haven't had a mat. I've travelled around a lot. I haven't had a mat. I haven't been able to afford a mat, actually, at times in my life, and I've still managed to come to the yoga practice. And yoga's, it's accessible from your home at any point, I suppose. You can access that for free in many, 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 many ways. And you can encourage your body to move without any equipment. You might have some books, you can use them as blocks. You might have a dressing gown belt, you can use it as a strap. We've all got cushions hanging around somewhere, you can use them to sit on. There's always something you can use that's not a yoga prop. Yeah, and if you really think about all the other, I don't want to call it sport because it's not, but if you, all these, like say, hobbies that are exercise influenced, you're spending quite a lot of money if you're in a rugby team or if you're a boxer, and a mat. I think you can get some mats for so cheap, like £10, and that's you set, really, if you want to start your journey. And the more you get into it, the more you do want to find a good teacher who can help you dig deeper. But like Polly just briefly mentioned, if you want to start yoga, and that's our main mission statement at Northern Soul, we want to see as many people do yoga as we possibly can. If that means it's with us, absolutely fantastic. But if it doesn't, and more people are in tune with themselves, connected to themselves, then you can go get that for free as well. So it's almost like the excuses outweigh what you really want it for, because if you, the cost one is definitely one I could bat out the park, and I could just send you 40 videos for free that I'd found, and you don't need a mat. So it is there to do whenever you want. So yeah, they're the main three that we get quite a lot. Yeah, cost. I'm not flexible enough or strong enough, which obviously comes with the yoga practice, and time, which we've all got the same amount of, I suppose. It depends on why you want to come into the yoga practice in the first place. I think it's the most important part about coming into the yoga practice is why. What's the reason you wanted to come into the yoga practice in the first place? And if your why is bigger than your excuses, then you will do the yoga. It's as simple as that. For me, I was anxious, I was depressed, I was stiff, tight, tense, fearful, frustrated, all of these things, ways of the world nowadays a little bit, living very much in my head. I needed to do something. I needed to do something that was working mindfully through some sort of process. And so to me, I had to do the yoga practice. I had to do it because my why was bigger, and I wanted to stop suffering, and I wanted to live a life of purpose and kindness towards myself. So it was important for me to do it.
I think that brings us up into our next point, actually, the benefits of yoga. You've just brushed upon a couple of benefits that helped you in particular. But if we listed them all, this would not be a 30-hour podcast. We would be here for a very long time. But let's dig into some of the benefits that you personally think, because it is endless, isn't it? The benefits of yoga. We could really be here all day.
It can heal. I think it heals the body from the inside out. And I think obviously you choose the style of yoga that suits you. Eventually you'll get to know that. Or a combination of different yogas that suit your body, your needs, what you want to get out of it. And depending on how you practice this yoga, the benefits can be life-changing, as in they can heal you from the inside out thoroughly.
Any watchers, actually, let us know how yoga's benefited you in the comments. This is an interactive podcast. We're live. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're in our members group as well, which is North and South TV. So anyone listening who wants to show us what they've benefited from us, that'd be great. But we're going to start listing some benefits that we think are so
some
powerful.
Some of the main benefits, really, of the yoga practice.
Okay, so let's start then, Paul.
So I would say that the first benefit, the main benefit, I'm going to say, is the spine. Now, when you hear the word the spine, people are like, oh, great, it's just a spine. It's there. I've got a spine. We've all got one. But actually, we experience the whole of our existence through the spine. And I'll quickly explain to you why. So we've got this little saying in yoga, and it goes, you are only as young as your spine is flexible. And it's true. It's not just the physical spine that I'm talking about here. It's also the spinal cord, the central nervous system that runs from the tailbone to the brain, that controls our mind and body coordination, and the Sushumna, which is the central energy channel of the body. So let's think about the spine as the absolute tent pole of the body. It props everything up in the body, okay? So if the spine is stiff and tense and unsupportive in the body, so it's not got that mobility in it, it's not got that the mobility creates strength as well. If we haven't got that in the physical structure of the spine, eventually it's going to be unsupportive for the body. So think about it as the main support pole of the body. When that is strong, flexible and supportive for the rest of the body, you're going to live a much more youthful, happy and healthy life, because your body in general will be stronger, more mobile, and it will last for longer. Okay, so like a pair of trainers that you're scuffing around in the dirt, imagine your spine is a similar thing. You look after your shoes, they're going to look after your feet. You look after your spine, it's going to look after the rest of the body. So that's just the physical spine, okay? Because we work into the spine so much in yoga, we start to strengthen it, and we bring that mobility back in, like we would a child or a cat and a dog that finds that nice sort of, they open every morning, they remove some of this tension in the myofascia, the connective tissue, the sticky spider web around the muscles that gets stagnant, and it gets stiff, and it creates injury, and it creates imbalances. So we want to get that moving. Okay, physical spine, central nervous system. This is probably one of the main things we're working with in the yoga practice, is the nervous system, the central nervous system. Now, there's different parts of the nervous system. I'm going to quickly talk about the central nervous system, tailbone to brain. It connects the mind and the body. And yoga is about this unison between the mind and the body, so that our minds and our bodies are working together instead of separately, okay? So this is something that we're really working with. And this is obviously feeding the tissues and the organs and helping everything to stay well and healthy and free-flowing, I suppose. Another thing that we're doing with the nervous system in yoga is we are coming back into the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, this parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest part of the nervous system. And in life, nowadays, we're responding very much in the sympathetic nervous system. And this is what we would describe as our stress response, or our fight or flight part of the nervous system. That part of the nervous system that's really important, that gets us all fired up, we need it. We need it for at times of danger and stuff like that. But nowadays, we're overworking that part of the nervous system. We're always stressed. We're always speeding around. We're never looking after ourselves in the way that we probably should do. And so yoga brings us back into the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, it relaxes us. It relaxes our mind. It relaxes our nervous system, our muscles, and our body. Last of all, when it comes to the spinal area, we are working with the Sushumna. Now, the Sushumna is a little bit more complicated to understand, but let's describe this as our sort of central energy channel of the body. Some people might want to describe it as the chakras, or let's just say our main energetic cord or main energetic area. Lots of stuff gets stored in there, okay? Let's call it the energy body. So throughout our life, mentally we store things, physically we store things, and energetically we store things. And all of this hugs into the core of the body. And with yoga, we're removing it, so that we can eventually become a lot more open and a lot more free, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So that's one of the main benefits of the yoga practice when it comes to the core.
I think the spine in general gets overlooked a lot, and people come into yoga a lot of the time to be stronger or to have more mental clarity. But in today's age, we like people who get older who are more like decrepit and stuff, they rely on drugs and stuff. They're in a lot of pain when they get older, right? And I think yoga, it's almost like a long-term game. Like, when you hit a certain age and you're feeling that, you're still feeling as youthful as you was in your 40s, 50s, and you're like 70 plus, that has such massive detrimental bonuses in your life. And I think we overlook that, because I know for certain my grandma was in a lot of pain in her last few years. And I think if you put in the work now and you plant the seeds now, you're going to really reap the benefits in the long term. But we often tunnel vision.
Yoga is about sustainability. You don't want to go all guns blazing into the yoga practice and work your body and tire your muscles and hurt something. You want to take it steadily. It's a lifelong practice. I always encourage my students to work slow and steady wins the race. It's never about brute force. It's always about thinking about longevity and sustaining your body. In yoga, we think about the body as a vessel taking us from A to B. So it's a nice home, basically, for the soul, taking you from A to B. Now, you wouldn't want to allow your soul to live in a horrible home. So the body's this container for the soul. And the longer we keep the body healthy, fit and well and mobile and strong, for all aspects of it, the muscles, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the mind, the organs, the tissues, the blood. You know, when we're keeping all of this working and functioning properly from the inside out, it allows us to sustain our soul in a much more comfortable way. And that takes us for a longer period of time, basically.
Claire has just put as well, sorry, I'll just touch upon this. So definitely agree with the healing from the inside out. The mindfulness element to yoga and breath awareness is how yoga helped me with my MS. And that's another great benefit.
Claire's one of our lovely members.
So shout out to Claire, who's actually helped her MS with through yoga. So that's another benefit.
Well, that's good. I can bring that on to the next benefit, actually, is slightly how I was talking about the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest approach. The breath is one of the main aspects that we're working with. Obviously, breath is our life force. If we're not breathing, we're dead. So the breath is extremely important. And Often we tend to take a very short breath in this day and age. We breathe into the chest, it's short, it's similar to the way we're working in life, is fast and erratic. And what we're trying to do in the yoga practice is we're trying to control the breath a little bit deeper. So specifically, we might work with something called full yogic breath or diaphragmatic breath breathing, where we are bringing the breath back into the belly where it belongs, and we're taking a full breath. So we're enabling for oxygenation of the brain and body to be more regulated. And this full breath calms the nervous system, it grounds the body, it stops us from living in that stress response, in that short breath space. It grounds anxiety, it releases some of these cognitive things that go on in the mind and brings us back into the body. So yeah, for things like MS and stuff like that, anything that we're struggling with in life, when we come back to the breath and simplifying things a little bit more and allowing the breath to give us life, it can massively benefit the mind and bring us out of that stress response back into a much more wholesome way of living, I suppose.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because when you're a child, you're not taught how to breathe. You just do it, and you do it correctly. And then, like, something I learned over my time in the yoga industry is I was breathing wrong. You know, I was a chest breather and not a belly breather. And if you look at a baby, it breathes from the belly. And I think it's interesting, as you get older, instead of learning more, you need to actually unlearn a lot. And I think that's a real interesting point about breathing. A lot of people don't actually take the full oxygenation into them. And it's something that we do so simply as a child. And then now we have to almost learn how to be a child again.
Well, yeah, I think yoga is a process of unlearning what they've told you to be, basically. So we get all these barriers up as we grow older and to be adults. Like, we have restrictions. We get told we have to do stuff in certain ways. There's rules put in place. There's numerous amounts of societal expectations and pressures and rubbish that's none of it's really real, is it? You know, but I think yoga is very much about stripping back the layers of things that people have taught you and limiting beliefs and things that you believe about yourself that aren't true, and coming back to your true authentic self, where things are a little bit more pure. Your breath's even more pure. You're coming back to the way you would breathe as a baby. You're coming back to the way you might move in a younger form of yourself. So it's a bit more freeing. Yoga's about freeing up the body, freeing up the mind, freeing up so that you can live a life on your terms with a lot more, I suppose, clarity and understanding of who you really are. That's another benefit.
Yeah. Any other benefits that you want to talk about?
There's loads. I'll just quickly get a couple more in. More physical benefits, I suppose. When we're talking about flexibility, yoga massively brings huge amounts of mobility into the body. So there's this flexibility and strength, both of which work together to enable movement, openness, space. So we build in strength in the muscles, we build in strength in the joints. It's a low impact exercise. If you describe it as an exercise, it's a low impact exercise. So we're moving slowly and mindfully, often connecting the breath in sync with the movement. And what this does is it really brings a lot of stability into the body. It brings stability into the joints, into the muscles, and it helps us stretch, strengthen, and open the body in a safe and sustainable way. Okay, and obviously when we're starting to build that muscle memory, muscle strength, muscle mobility as well, we also start to tone the muscles. So when the muscles are toned, they appear a bit smaller, which allows us to move in a much more comprehensive way, in a much more thorough way. It's fabulous for the cardiovascular system, so that movement is fabulous for the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, obviously the breath. It's fabulous for the heart. It's an all-encompassing holistic exercise that helps with every single aspect of the body, even down to something like as simple as your digestive issues, so IBS. If you've got constipation or the opposite or anything like that, it helps the movement of the bowels become more efficient. So the whole systems in the body are starting to work more efficiently. The breath and the mantra and the concentration on a lot of the different things that we work with in yoga, mantra, mudra, repetition of movement, even something down to the sun salutes in sync with the breath, helps that stress response. So we're coming out of the head, we're steadying the mind, we're coming back into the heart, we're coming back into the body, and it just strengthens everything from the nervous system outwards. I think also, so obviously with the strength in the muscles, it's healthy, and joints, it's helping things that come with wear and tear of the body, so osteoporosis, arthritis, things like that we get. Everything, injury prevention. So if you're a runner or you're a cyclist or you're a rock climber, like I was an ex-rock climber, haven't done that for a while, but it helps with just that mobility in the joints. And if you've been injured, I had a terrible ankle injury. I was told I would never run again. And lo and behold, I did yoga 1.5 years later, down dog, stretching out my Achilles tendon, bringing strength into the ankle through balancing, and back running again. So it's really supportive for your other sports as well from a physical aspect. I think lastly, possibly it helps with the metabolism. So it's really, really good for maintaining a healthy weight, and just keeping the body feeling shape, so you're feeling strong, mobile, and like you can take on the world, really.
I can't believe we've not even touched on this. I just want to end it on mental clarity and mental health, because the world we're living in right now, it's going to have effect, whether it's now or in the long-term future. And for mental health, I think yoga almost should be done. In my eyes, it should be an educational thing. I really believe it should be taught in schools, especially for young people being disconnected as it is right now. I think it should be taught throughout life, really. And I think for mental clarity and against mental health issues and stuff, I don't think there's a better thing that you can do that's not medicinal, and it's comes from you, and it's working inwards, and I think that's something I want to touch upon. What do you want to put anything more on that spin?
Yeah, it's like we're speaking about the parasympathetic nervous system. The reason that yoga is, we can always say yoga's good for mental health. Yoga's good for mental health. You hear it all the time, don't you? It's good for mental health, but really, I think to know why yoga is good for mental health is to understand the reasons around why yoga is good for mental health. And there's a couple of reasons. It's the breath. Number one, it's coming back to the breath. Creating that soft, slow, long breath gets us out of an anxious state, because that short breath, that very, very short breath in the chest, like we were describing before, can create anxiety, because it's short, it's sharp, it sends signals to the brain to say you're in danger, because you're not breathing properly. So when you're not breathing properly, the body scrunches up, the muscles tense up, the mind thinks you're in danger, so it creates anxiety. So you can create your own anxiety through just not breathing properly and through always feeling very, very, very tense. So one of the reasons that it's so good for mental health is it releases the tension in the body. It encourages us to breathe slowly and softly and back to our natural breath, which sends signals to the brain to tell us you're safe, you're all right, everything's fine. So actually we're relieving our own anxiety by just coming back to the breath. And yoga is very much to do with breath work.
I also think it brings you back to your true, authentic self. And if you've got mental health issues, I think often there's something lost in there as well. And sometimes yoga is the path to find a deeper connection with yourself. And I think mental battles up there sometimes come when you're not in line and in sync with your actual belief system, and you're out of shape with it and all out of sorts. And I think yoga has some crazy way of just slapping you back into shape, you know.
Well, I came into yoga in the first place for running because I had bad runner's knees and I was like pounding the pavements for days and days and days on end. So I came into it firstly through yoga, through running, and I eventually started to feel that it was actually changing my mind, so it's changing my mental state. So I came into it from a physical thing, and eventually the real benefits that I found were all about finding mental clarity. And that specifically for me was through Kundalini Yoga. Kundalini Yoga is magical, has a magical way of bypassing the mental chit-chat by working into the body, specifically into the spine a lot. Like I say, we hold a lot of this trauma in the spine, and we hold a lot of this layers of sort of physical tension and energetic tension in the spine. So in Kundalini Yoga, we work into the spine a lot, which bypasses the chimp head. And so we don't have to spend so much time in the head, which I think a lot of us, when it comes to cognitive work and it comes to, and what we've been told in the Western society is to help relieve anxiety, continuously be working from a mindful approach to in a cognitive way. And for me, that's fabulous. But I think one of the things that really, really helps to relieve anxiety is that we don't work so much cognitively and we work back into the body. And Kundalini Yoga takes you out the head and it brings you back into the body, back into the heart. And eventually you start to get these sort of threads of delusions just leaving and peeling back these layers that we've created and kept and used as ours. All of these things that we think about ourselves, these sorts of lacking of confidence or self-esteem, or, you know, everyone's got different things that they have that they keep and that they believe. And yoga's got a very nice way of removing it without having to spend too much time in the head. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think we've touched upon the main benefits, unless there's anything else you want to say, Paul. But I think, we could keep going, and there's so many benefits, and I might even link you to an article, and it adds like 102 benefits of yoga or something crazy. And if we went through all them, we'd never stop.
Oh, we could go down to the smallest little of things, like it improves your eyesight, it improves. Do you know what I mean? It improves your hearing, it can improve the way that you speak, and it can improve your focus, it can improve your work ethic, it can improve self-discipline, motivation. There's hundreds of benefits. But I'm a massive believer that when you heal one thing in the body, you heal everything. So it's all about coming back to that healing, that self-healing. It's a self-healing tool. It's just a tool that we have to heal things. When the body heals, it heals everything. Yeah, when we start to free up something, we free up everything. And eventually it comes to a point where we're finding a lot more peace and serenity and, awareness towards everything.
And if anyone is listening to this or listening to it on replay and they do want to delve into yoga, we offer a 14-day free trial at North and Soul TV. So come dip your foot in, come see our amazing community. We do 9 live classes a week. We've got 4 expert teachers, soon becoming 5, but there's more on that at a later date. And we're a great community that's always welcoming. So if you do want to join us, get yourself a 14-day free trial at www.northandsoul.tv. Okay, so that's another episode of Beyond the Bends. We're going to check out now. Peace and love.
Bye.